Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rod Oram, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the second in our three-part series of the Unitec Forum for the Future on the Supercity of Auckland. I'm going to introduce Rick Eade, the Chief Executive of Unitec, first to give you a proper welcome, and then I'll come back and explain how the evening's going to run and introduce our panellists. So, Rick, over to you. Thanks very much indeed.
E nā reo, e nā rangatira, e nā manuhiri. Ko tēnei te wiki o te reo Māori. Ka tea e o, ka tea e koe, kia kaha ake. Tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa. Kia ora, Shane. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And in my introduction, I welcome visitors and guests. I also acknowledge that this week is Māori Language Week, and I encourage you all to give it a go. I'd like to formally welcome you all on behalf of Unitec to the second of our forums for the future this year on the Supercity, the why, the what, and the how. Last week we focused on the why, and we had a fantastic discussion both with our panellists and with the audience as we unpacked some of the background and concerns and perhaps some of the potential solutions for the city. Unitec prides itself on giving its students a different angle on learning, and I hope that through the forum tonight, you too, both our panellists and our audience, can perhaps take away a new angle on the Supercity. This forum tonight and the series of forums is in many respects an action learning project. The students from performing and screen arts, from management and marketing have been involved in the development and production of tonight's event as we stream it, webcast it, and as you see behind me, tweet it. So I hope all of you have an enjoyable and stimulating night tonight. Plenty of interesting and vigorous debate and discussion. And in conclusion, I'd like to thank our panellists for making the time available to be with us tonight, and of course thanking Rod Oram for helping to pull together this event. Rod, thank you for your stewardship. Kia ora koutou.
Thank you very much indeed, Rick. We hit on the idea of this sort of forum last year because we were looking for a way to try to have a lively but well-informed discussion on big issues. And last year in our first forum we looked at the New Zealand economy out to 2025 and how we might develop it. It was very obvious that for this year we would want to do the Supercity as our first forum for the year. And as Rick mentioned last week, we had a very good session on the why are we doing this to ourselves. And we had Peter Salmon, who had headed up the Royal Commission on Auckland. We had Mayor Bob Harvey, the second and last Mayor of Waitakere City. And thirdly, Sir Ron Carter, obviously distinguished businessman, entrepreneur, and chair of Committee for Auckland. And we also had two student members of the panel from Unitec and a faculty member as well. It was a good discussion. You can see some great clips from that on YouTube if you go looking for it, and also on the Unitec Forum for the Future pages on the Unitec website. This week is very much about the what's on offer in terms of the new structure of council and local boards and council-controlled organisations and the like. At this point, that's reasonably well set in legislative terms, but there's still a lot yet to bring to life about that new structure. So this week's discussion is going to focus on that, and then next week it's going to be the how. What will enliven this new structure? How will it all work? How will we make the most of it? And I'm very pleased to announce that we've got all 7 of the declared mayoral candidates coming next week. We're going to put in some extra seats here because we want to keep this structure. So if you do plan to come same time next week, you better get here early because we're going to be publicising it quite widely. The structure for this evening is very straightforward. I'm going to introduce the 6 panellists and then just ask each of them to give their brief perspective and bring their expertise on this question of the structure that is on offer. And then from that will then flow a great discussion, I hope, from now until 7 o'clock. In essence, there are 3 fauna, if you like, involved in this discussion. There's the panellists, there's the studio audience, which is looking particularly intelligent and perceptive tonight, I seem to suggest. And then there's the wider world. We've got Tom, who's webcasting here out to the wider world. And then we've got Jason tweeting there, engaged with the wider world as well. So you can see the tweets coming up on these 2 screens here. So we've been trying to get this sort of 3-way conversation going, not just here in the studio, but out in the, as I say, out in the wider world as well. Now, I'm going to introduce each of the panellists as I turn to them for their first comments.